Sunday opens with the most extreme claim in the chapter, and Paul makes it 3 times in a row, like 3 hammer blows. Listen to how he starts. If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, he says, but don't have love, I'm only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. Loud, hollow, and meaningless. That's the verdict on the gift the Corinthians prized above all others, and Paul delivers it in the first sentence. But watch what he does with the very next line, because this is where the argument really opens up. He starts stacking. If I have the gift of prophecy, he says, and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have faith that can move mountains, but don't have love, I am nothing. Every item on that list is something the Corinthians were chasing. Prophecy, the gift Paul himself ranks highest. Understanding all mysteries, every deep truth of God laid open. Knowledge, complete and total, the very thing this church prided itself on. Faith so powerful it could pick up a mountain and throw it into the sea. Stack all of that in one person, the most spiritually gifted human being you could imagine, and then remove love. And Paul doesn't say that person is diminished. He says that person is nothing. Not less. Nothing. Zero.
And then the third blow, the most shocking of all. If I give away everything I own to feed the poor, he says, and if I hand over my body to be burned, but don't have love, I gain nothing. Now stop there, because this one should really surprise you. Giving everything to the poor is the height of generosity. Handing your body over to be burned is the height of sacrifice, the martyr's death, the ultimate proof of devotion. These are the most heroic acts a religious person could perform. And Paul says you can do both. Empty your bank account for the needy and die a martyr in the flames. And if love isn't behind it, you gain nothing at all. Stay with that for a moment, because it exposes something we'd rather not look at. It means a person can do enormously good things for entirely empty reasons. You can give a fortune to the poor to be seen as generous, to feel superior, to buy a clean conscience, to be admired. You can even face death for a cause out of stubbornness, or pride, or the desire to be remembered as a hero, with no love in it anywhere. The action looks identical from the outside. The crowd sees the same generosity, the same courage. But God sees the motive. And if the motive isn't love, the whole magnificent act, in his accounting, comes to nothing. That should make every one of us quiet for a second. Because it means the question is never just, what am I doing? The question is, why? You can do the most Christian-looking things in the world and have it all add up to 0, if love isn't the engine underneath. Feel the arithmetic underneath all 3 statements. Paul is describing a kind of spiritual multiplication. Whatever gift you have, however impressive, gets multiplied by your love to find its real value. And if the love is 0, then it doesn't matter how big the gift is. Anything multiplied by 0 is 0. The most dazzling gift in the world, times no love, equals nothing. That's the math of the kingdom, and it turns the Corinthian value system completely upside down. They were measuring each other by the size of the gift. Paul says the gift isn't the measure at all. Love is the multiplier that decides whether any of it counts. And notice what this does to how we think about impressive people. We are dazzled by ability. We admire the gifted speaker, the brilliant mind, the generous giver, the bold sacrificer. And those things are real, and they can be good. But Paul is warning us that all of them can exist with a completely empty center. You can be gifted and loveless. You can be generous and loveless. You can even be sacrificial and loveless, giving things up for reasons that have nothing to do with love at all, for pride, for reputation, for the feeling of being admired. And when that's the case, God's verdict on all that impressive activity is a single, devastating word: nothing. There's something almost frightening in that word, and something freeing at the same time. Frightening because it means a life can look full and turn out empty. You can build an impressive resume of religious achievement and have God look at it and see nothing, because the one thing that gives it value was missing. But it's freeing too, because it means the opposite is just as true. The person the world would never notice, the one with no platform and no impressive gifts, who simply loves quietly and faithfully, day after day, is building something God counts as everything. The scoreboard we all live by, the one that ranks people by talent and achievement, is not God's scoreboard. His has one column,
and the column is love. So Sunday leaves us with the claim that reframes everything. Love isn't one virtue among many, one item on a long list of things a good Christian should have. It's the thing that gives every other thing its worth. Without it, the whole glittering pile counts for zero. And that should land on us before we go any further, because we are all, every one of us, tempted to measure our lives by the very things Paul just crossed out. The gift, the output, the visible result. The thing we can point to and say, look what I did, look what I gave, look what I can do. Paul takes that whole way of keeping score and sets it aside, and he replaces it with a single question that cuts underneath all of it. The question is no longer how much did you do, it's how much did you love while you did it.
And notice who this levels. It levels the gifted person, who suddenly discovers that the ability everyone admires proves nothing about the state of their heart. And it lifts the ungifted person, the one who has spent years quietly assuming they had nothing much to offer God, who now discovers that the one thing that counts most was always available to them. You don't need a platform to love. You don't need talent or training or a title. The most overlooked believer in any congregation has full access to the very thing Paul says is greater than prophecy and knowledge and mountain-moving faith combined. That's a stunning democratization of what matters. The playing field is not level when it comes to gifts, and Paul already said that's by design. But it is perfectly level when it comes to love, and love is the part that counts. So Sunday leaves us with a question we'd rather not sit with. If everything I can do is worth exactly nothing without love, then the honest measure of my life is not my record of activity. It's the quality of the love underneath it. And that's a much harder thing to fake and a much harder thing to face. That question is going to hang over the rest of the chapter and over the rest of our lives, and it's worth carrying it with us into everything that follows. Now back to Corinth, because a claim that big raises an obvious question. If love matters this much, we'd better know exactly what it is. And that's where Paul goes next. And he does it in a way nobody expects.